Hey there. So in this tutorial I'm going to compare MySQL improved functions with PHP Data Objects functions, and we are going to compare queries which we can access the database. Also we will compare how we can get the most out of both these ways of connecting to database. As you know, MySQL improved functions allows you to access the MySQL database with both procedural and object-oriented method, and PHP Data Object is database agnostic way of accessing the database. So in PDO, only difference is that you get to connect to any database in an object-oriented way. So let's first start with the function to connect the database. In MySQL functions, we have MySQL _ connect method, which takes localhost or host name, then username and password as parameters. You can also use this method in object-oriented way, so there is nothing like that you have to use in a procedural way. You can also do the error handling on this function as well. And then you have PDO, which is PHP Data Objects method, in which you need to create a new object and pass it the host value while giving the name of the database driver, which is MySQL here, and you have to specify localhost or particular IP name here. Then you have DB name, where you have to specify the database name of your MySQL database. Then char set, which is the encoding with which you have stored the data in the database. Then you have username and password as parameters. So when you create a new object with help of PDO, you have to use these parameters. So starting from your MySQL or any other database driver name pointing to your host, then database name, then character set, and username password. Now we will see few more examples of connecting and accessing the database or manipulating the database in both these MySQL and PDO ways. Now let's check here. We have a statement which we are going to perform on database. This query is select star from table name. So basically this is the query I want to run, and statement I am going to make here is we are first going to create a variable that stores the result of this query, and if this query fails, we are going to call MySQL error. So this is MySQL query function that accepts MySQL query. So when you execute this, you will be able to get entire content of your table, and if table doesn't exist, then this die method will be invoked. In case of PDO, we don't have specific way for each database. Here you are going to make a very generalized query. So you are going to create a variable, then access DB variable from which we are going to perform a query. So the DB here is the one that we saw earlier, which was calling to the PDO database on which we are performing this query. So we are calling this query and passing the SQL statement here as select star from table. So if you have, let's say, MongoDB, then this query will change. Same goes for any other database which is a bit different from normal SQL, and that's how small change in PDO can get your work done. So in case of MySQLi, you get to access only the MySQL database. In case of PDO, you get to perform queries and also access the database regardless of the type of the database, like MongoDB, MySQL, Postgres, SQLi, and MS SQL Server. So let's check how other statements we can do on this. Now let's check this insert into database. As you can see, this is the query which inserts first name last name into the table. I haven't given any name for table here. Also we are going to add the values John and Doe, which goes into first name and last name respectively. And there is also die method, which should be called if it fails. So this is procedural way of MySQL query function, and we are performing insert operation. In case of PDO way, we are accessing our DB and then executing the statement inside this. Okay, so the same query goes in both. Only difference is that we are not specifically calling any database related function like MySQL. Any database which is accessed by this DB will go for execution of this query as well. Now I have this another update related statement in which I am calling a query telling my database to update a particular field with a value, and if it doesn't help then should call die method. And in case of PDO, I'm creating a variable, then going to store the result of this query and then perform try to catch method to check if that row really affected or not. Okay, so like this, if you want to use die, and you just have to do a little bit different than the procedural method in case of our object oriented PDO operations. So it is up to you now to compare both procedural and object oriented way of accessing and manipulating database. However, I can tell you that both these methods will give you satisfactory results. Only thing is that MySQLi functions that you are going to use either via procedural or object oriented way will only work on MySQL database. In case of PDO, they will work on any type of database. So as in your code which you want to go for and save your time or your understanding with those database and functions will help in your project. I hope that this tutorial on difference between these two have helped you. I didn't get into much depth, however the intention of this tutorial was to show you how easy it is for you to access your respective database using these two methods and what are the limitations of MySQL functions. So I hope you find this tutorial helpful, and I will see you in the next video.